The wave of new school artists has been one of the best things to happen to hip-hop within recent times, in my opinion. On one hand, we get controversial figures like Lil Pump or Lil Yachty, whose level of talent and artistry is clearly up for heated debate. On the other hand, we get artists like Sade, who has very little in common with the current popular sound, but is nonetheless a young and upcoming artist. There's quite a few reasons why Sade makes it into my top 5, and I'm excited to share my logic with you all. Let's go over her record for 2017, what she represents as an artist, and of course why she's in my top 5. Of course, I'll also go over her best 3 songs in my opinion, which will be at the end of the video. Sade is part of a hip-hop collective known as TheKnuBlack. This collective consists of herself and an artist named New Origin, but ever since the creation of the collective, they've worked more like a duo than a loosely bound collective. This trend has continued into 2017, with almost all of the songs coming out under this collective featuring both artists. Under TheKnuBlack, Sade has been involved in a staggering amount of songs, including over 6 singles as well as a full album. This has done wonders for branding, and I feel as though TheKnuBlack is becoming more and more a known name in the world of hip-hop, which is naturally a great thing for Sade. On top of all the music she's done as part of TheKnuBlack, she's been a feature artist on other projects this year. She's featured on Marty Thompson's Keeping It Together, where she had an interlude type of song all to herself. She also featured on one of the most intense tracks of Drew Beck's The Good album, on a song called The Good Cypher. As one half of TheKnuBlack, Sade has seen a lot of exposure this year, through Rapzilla particularly, and they stood out amidst the sea of new artists due to the group's eccentric choice in music videos and general art direction. Sade also happens to be one of the more vocal artists out there. She shares quite a bit of information and opinions, as well as tidbits of her life between her Instagram and Twitter. While some might see this as a bad thing, this is often an effective technique in reaching out to that core audience of people who really care for what you have to say. Overall, it was a good year for Sade, and by extension, TheKnuBlack collective itself. They haven't added any new artists for some time now, but thanks to that, TheKnuBlack is quickly becoming known as a powerful duo with an engaging dynamic, something that isn't incredibly common in hip-hop these days. While Sade is vocal with her opinions, her music in and of itself is rather complex. I think a great point to start is to look at her part of the dynamic within the TheKnuBlack group. There's a track called Yin on the project, and another called Yang. The origins of the yin-yang is rooted in Chinese religion, which might initially appear confusing given that TheKnuBlack considers themselves a Christian hip-hop group. However, concerns can quickly be dissipated if you listen to both of these tracks. Sade's Yin speech also reveals a lot about how she sees music. In it, she advises listeners to recognize God in everything, whether that's in the various aspects of nature or even within ourselves. She states that your vision is only as strong as your roots, and that you must find a careful balance between maturing and maintaining your imagination. Sade also says that we can use the artwork God made to glorify the artist. Rather than making a vaguely artistic speech that throws God's name in, Sade takes a bold stance. She is suggesting that everything belongs to God because it was made by God and is still handily within God's control. This is a biblical perspective that strips herself from any glory as a musician. She uses her music to glorify God because without God she would not be able to make music because she wouldn't be able to exist. This sort of belief spills into all of her songs, where you'll often find lyrics from her that are unabashedly focused on God. In that way, she reflects one side of the balance mentioned in her speech. She's wise and mature enough to see that only God is worthy of any real glory. However, in many of those same songs, you'll find abstract creativity and ways of wording things that show she's still in touch with her imagination. This represents the other side of the balance from her speech, where she urges listeners to never lose their imagination. One of the most notable things about Sade is that she has an allegorical character or persona called Black Sheep. Black Sheep is more than just an idea. She talks about and embodies this character quite often, and TheKnuBlack even has animated music videos where Sade and New Origin's characters are fully realized. Who exactly is Black Sheep, beyond a creative representation of Sade? Well, before I ever planned on dissecting hip-hop like I do these days, I actually wanted to analyze fictional characters, which Black Sheep just so happens to be. So let's take a bit of time to really look at this character and see the creativity behind it. Taking a quick look at Black Sheep, we can see that her overall design is easy on the eyes. She's a bipedal sheep with unusually tan skin. This tan skin helps make Black Sheep look more distinct and humanoid, thanks to her skin color resembling a human's more than a sheep. It varies in color, but she's generally portrayed as having some human-like melanin on her. Her most striking feature is her coal black fur, which is highly stylized to look neat but still fuzzy. It covers her body in the way that a short-sleeved shirt and some capris would, making for a clever design that appears as though she's wearing an all-black outfit. She adds to this effect by wearing some black high-top shoes. Finally, as far as accessories go, she has a pair of thick black glasses. She has been shown to wear clothing, but for the most part, she is most recognizable with the outfit-like fur appearance. We almost never see rappers do something like this, where they create a fictional character based on them, and that character is more than a tuned version of the rapper. Thanks to that, we can really appreciate Black Sheep as a manifestation of Sade's personality within her music. To elaborate, a detail I find worth noting is the fact that Black Sheep chooses to accentuate her abnormal black fur by wearing black shoes and glasses. While this character blatantly represents the metaphor of a black sheep within a given group, the fact is that Sade's character is perfectly content with being an outcast. Given that her fur is black and her skin is abnormal for that of a sheep, we can see that she was born this way, that God made her to be set apart. However, she acknowledges this and shows her acceptance and approval of how she was naturally made by wearing all black. When I saw the character's design initially, I wasn't particularly struck by it. The more I studied Black Sheep, however, the more I found it to be a charming allegory about how living for God is akin to being an outcast in this life. We can hide it and try to still blend in, or we can choose to embrace it and live for God without shame. By wearing all of one color, a rather silent and composed color at that, Black Sheep outwardly expresses her introversion. She doesn't want to exaggerate her features or try to gain attention. However, black is a powerful color and resonates with people. It's a color like no other. It's devoid of pop and liveliness, but is considered regal and beautiful still. It makes for a striking combination with every other color under the sun, but is subdued and ambiguous by itself. It's a color traditionally associated with evil and supernatural things, but actually works its way into multiple aspects of nature and mankind. It's the color that outcasts often identify with. How fitting then that Black Sheep embraces this color. God made her to be an outcast by choosing a color that is often seen in a negative light. However, by focusing on the positive aspects of black, Black Sheep finds that there's a great deal of beauty to this color, and it communicates her introversion in a way that everyone can see. This is a highly accurate portrayal of Sade herself, as her music is oftentimes introverted and reflective. Her sound is uncommon, and things generally add up to make her a black sheep within today's hip-hop scene. She finds an audience within the outcasts and those who love music that sounds different. This specific audience is represented by the whole Bantus term that frequently gets mentioned throughout TheKnuBlack's music. Sade is a Bantu herself, and so are all the outcasts that enjoy the group's music, creating one big misfit family. I honestly have quite a bit more to say on Sade and her character, but I feel as though I've said enough. Instead, we'll move on and take a look at how all this translates exactly into her being one of my favorites. For starters, let me say this. Sade's level of creativity is on another level compared to many other artists of today, in my opinion. I'm charmed by her fictional representation, Black Sheep, as it's an adorable character who is more than just some random animal made to represent her. While there are many abstractly creative artists out there, oftentimes this creativity doesn't point to God. It can be difficult to creatively glorify God in a way that resonates with people, but Sade does this in my opinion. I appreciate that her music and artistry really makes me think and analyze things, and the fact that she provides supplementary material, such as her character Black Sheep. It created the feeling that there's a world and lore to her music, and that allows for immersion on a deep level. This is a reason why I'm big on artists like Aha Gazelle as well. However, while creativity is great and all, it honestly doesn't translate well as a rapper if you can't really rap. Sade excels in this particular area, and as I described Ruslan as an MC, I would say the same for Sade. In my opinion, she's one of the best rappers to hit the scene that I know of within recent times. She can absolutely let loose on the mic, packing many of her verses with intricate lyrics and messages. This often goes hand in hand with her quick-paced delivery, and all of it combined makes for songs that take countless listens in order to decipher everything she says. There's a good tinge of flair in her rapping as well. Her voice when she raps is distinctly smooth and rather deep. Her delivery comes across as cool and unfazed, creating a remarkably confident cadence that really play into the idea of her being an MC. Just in case that could ever be a tad bit predictable or boring, she constantly mixes things up thanks to her being a capable singer. While she never sings entire verses, she will sing for parts, throw in her own melodic backup vocals, or even sing hooks. Things like this give her songs a soulful and jazzy edge to them that never feels out of place. For me, Sade is a strong example that female artists can run with male artists in a genre like rap. The best thing about it is that she doesn't advertise herself in any aspect, as some of the more successful female hip-hop artists have done. Sade doesn't emphasize that she's a woman, nor does she try to avoid it or come across as masculine. The fact that she's a female artist comes across quite clearly through her vocals and singing. On top of that, she comes from a biblical perspective as a woman, providing unique perspectives that most guys really wouldn't consider. She's a solid artist who chooses to let creativity and glorifying God take center stage in her music. This allows everything else to flow smoothly through that core, whether it's her femininity, her blackness, and essentially everything else she talks about. The first song I chose was The History Machine from TheKnuBlack's Ohana album. She does the hook as well as giving a verse on this song, and her contribution as a whole meshes nicely with New Origin's verse. The song invites listeners to rock with TheKnuBlack and go back in time to when the music was more immersive, which is a fun concept in and of itself. The next song I had to pick was Finesse. This was a single released by the TheKnuBlack group, and the original version received a remix called Finesse 2.0. While the remix ultimately sounds cleaner, the original Finesse had an irresistible bounce to it, and the song has a special place in my mind. Sade grooves effortlessly on this song with an unbothered and chill flow, occasionally tossing in some backup vocals and singing to make the song feel more full. It's a seriously catchy song that feels lighthearted and effortless in a clever way. Sade's best musical moment of 2017 in my opinion was her verse on a song called Letterman. This was a track from TheKnuBlack's Ohana album, and its content dealt with choosing to proudly wear the Bantu Letterman jacket and embrace being an outcast. Sade gives her most impressive verse yet on this song, and it's a rather lengthy one that keeps me engaged the entire time. She switches up her flow several times throughout the verse, creating a sense of aggressiveness that she doesn't usually exhibit. This is strongly offset by her usual calm demeanor, and despite the rapid-fire delivery and technique demonstration, she doesn't sound even slightly winded throughout this verse. It's not as though her delivery is dull or lacking in passion, but more so genuine to her introverted presentation. I appreciate the authenticity because at the end of the day, not every rapper is meant to be hype and loud. God gives some people similar gifts, but he also gives those people different ways of using their gifts. This concludes most of my thoughts on Sade and why she's a favorite for me. What do you guys think about her? If you haven't heard her music, will you be checking it out soon? Feel free to shoot me your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time everyone, peace out.
I'm in the race again, check the plates again, Jersey, don't forget ya. Bike, speeding up time for the piece of a skyline. Never 100 trees, it'll sing as a guideline. Then I sit down, looking west to my eyes blind. Then I get words on words on words. 10 pound alley with a 10 grand verse. Whenever the sun comes, if you gotta move first, say go. Hit or rush, just let me dance.